So tonight is a joint event of three specialist groups of the British Computer Society. Three of us here are representing the specialist group on artificial intelligence. This is also co-organised with the Consultancy specialist group, and panellist Dr. Alan Warr is a representative of that group. And we're also grateful for the support of the Business Change specialist group. So the way we're going to work this evening is I'll get each of the panellists to introduce themselves in the moment, and then we'll kick off a discussion with a few prompts, a few questions to each of the panellists. I should say that unfortunately we've had apologies from Richard Ellis, one of our anticipated panellists, but we've got a last-minute stand-in who's our artificial intelligence agent, so we've still got a panel of 5 contributors. So I'll kick off the introductions. My name's Adrian Hopgood. I'm Emeritus Professor at the University of Portsmouth. That means Emeritus means I've retired from a salaried role, but I'm still involved with various projects at the University of Portsmouth, and I act now as an independent consultant on AI and its practical applications. I've actually worked in the field of AI for more or less 40 years, so I've seen some of the ups and downs. Mostly in the university sector, but I also spent some time in a computer consultancy and with Telstra, the Australian telecommunications company, at the stage of my career. And now I'll ask my colleagues to introduce themselves, starting with Andrew.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Lee. I've worked in AI also for 40 years, since I left Cambridge, where, of course, I read an entirely different subject, which was natural sciences, but I was always very interested in how do we think? What is the mind? And that's what took me into AI. Can we make a computer mind? Of course, back then we couldn't. I wonder how close we're getting now. Anyway, so I've applied AI in commerce, industry, and government ever since then. I think my claim to fame, if I have one, is I wrote the first summarizer back in the day when it was thought a crazy thing to have computers actually understand language. So I'm a fellow of the British Computer Society, as I guess quite a lot of people are here, and I'm a member of the SGAI committee. That helps run the conference that we have in Cambridge on AI. I'm going to plug something about that later on.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Nadia Abouayoub. I'm actually a member of the committee of the SGAI, the Specialist Group for Artificial Intelligence. I was a member as well. I'm still actually a member, but I was part of the committee for the VCS Women. From an academic perspective, so I graduated in artificial intelligence and in security, and then went into industry to apply to financial services as a strategist and innovation, then went back to lecture again and worked on regulation with the BSI, with the EU AI Act legislation. So we worked on setting up the department of data scientists who are going to be auditing the algorithms. And now I'm back into industry, so more the financial services, more specifically commodities. So always focusing on strategy and innovation and how we can apply not only AI, but any of the technologies to the financial services. So that's me.
Hello, I'm Dr. Alan Warr. It's great to be here, by the way. Thanks for inviting me onto the panel. I'm a lifelong management consultant, IT management consultant. I've served time with firms such as PA Consulting, BT Consulting, KPMG, Capita Consulting. Throughout, it's been a portfolio that's included AI and enterprise computing. About 7 years ago or so, I went independent. I got affluent enough to do that, and I now choose my own projects and my own clients. And I've really focused entirely on AI recently, both personally and with some of the AI companies like Jovian AI in America, Faculty AI up in Silicon Roundabout, and the Turing Institute up in King's Cross. I hold a master's degree in computer science, an MBA from Cranfield, and my PhD is in the strategic management of technology from London Business School. And my obsession this year has been on trying to create an artificially intelligent consultant, initially using RAG technologies for those that you're in the field, and or RAG techniques, and more recently using agentic technologies. And I brought along today, because I thought it'd be great to have a world first and have be the first people to have AI attend a panel session at a conference of a learned society. So I brought one along, and we'll see what see how she performs on the panel. So, and it is an AI that is designed to act like a management consultant. She's very unfamiliar with panel sessions, doing a world first, but I'll get her to introduce herself to you. Nestor, could you introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Certainly. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nestor, and I'm here as a specialist in business consultancy with a focus on leveraging emerging technologies like AI to drive growth, efficiency, and innovation. Over the years, I've worked with consultants, consultancy firms, and businesses of all sizes, helping them navigate industry challenges and embrace new tools to enhance their impact. Today, I'm excited to explore how AI is reshaping the consultancy landscape, creating opportunities, and prompting us to rethink our roles as trusted advisors. Let's dive into the future together.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for your introductions. So as I say, I'm going to pose some questions and invite each panelist to respond. I'll be a kind of active panelist myself. If I've got anything to add, then I will interject that into the discussion as well. So our first question is, I'm going to ask each of the panelists to suggest their up to 3 AI tools and methods that have changed how consulting is done or will change how consulting is done. So, Andrew.
Okay, thank you. So I've only got 2 actually. So the first one is very obvious, which is the mainstream use of LLMs that we're just hearing about. No doubt we'll dive into that some more. The second one, though, is we mustn't forget that large language models aren't the only form of AI that's out there. There's been a lot around for a long time that's very, very useful. So I need to declare an interest now, I think, as they say. I work, in fact, with my brother with a company called Project Science. And we've been using AI to actually do project management type things. In this particular case, we're using it to read through the definitions of sprints in a sort of agile environment and actually estimate the different durations and how much sprints are going to cost. So I think this sort of use of AI to actually help ourselves do our jobs better will become more and more.
So regarding the question on the 3 tools, because we always focus a lot on the tools themselves, but I think for the success, it's important to looking at the framework and the governances. So I wanted to give some example related to that. So first of all, it's what is the maturities of the companies related to AI approach, and not only that, related to the data management and their data strategies. Because when you look at certain tools for implementation, there are many, many different parameters from a strategic perspective. So you have to make sure that you have worked on across all of these parameters in order that any tools that you implement, then you can really extract the benefit of it, and then you can work on the scalability. So I think the maturity, the other element as well, is when you work in a company, how mature the company is. Is it part of their vision as well? Because you can implement certain tools, but the company may not want this implementation, or there's not much appetite from for example, from employees. So in that case, then you will have to work on the culture change to help you to implement. So yes, there are some tools you mentioned about LLM. We mentioned that there's a tool such as no code, low code now that it's coming up. But yes, let's focus on tools, but let's focus as well on governances, on framework, and then on the operating model of the company, and ensuring that whatever solution we implement is actually helping the company's vision. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
It's a very good question. I think from my observations at the moment of the consultancy industry, consultancies are going in hard, fast, and with serious investments. And it's really around generative AI, Gen AI, and in the last 6 months or so into agentic tools, which use generative AI to create agents to do the work of consultants in the consultancy workflow. And they are, and I'm surprised at just how effective they are. So I think that for me will be number one. Though I would echo Richard's that AI is wider than generic, than a generative AI. And indeed, a lot of the latest things coming out of generative AI are a lot more than just generative. They're doing a lot more. So, but there's also the whole area of machine learning and deep learning, which are underexploited. I'm not quite sure why, because I exploit them when I'm out there in the field. But they are still there and still have a lot of mileage. And are not really they've always been in the consultancy toolkit. They remain in the consultancy toolkit. They're not being emphasized at the moment in the way that the Gen AI area is being actioned. But I'm quite interested to hear what an AI thinks.
Could I just comment on what you just said
Yes,
there? Because I was going to make a similar point that obviously there's a great deal of excitement about generative AI, and for good reasons. But as we said in the introduction, some of us have been in the field for a long time, and there are a lot of tools, as you just alluded to, that are still relevant. So the kind of standard machine learning tools support, rather than generative AI, what I describe as discriminative AI. It's making a decision, if you like, or a forecast, or a recommendation, that sort of thing, rather than actually creating new text or images or whatever. And I'd go a little step further and say that it's a mistake to completely abandon the symbolic AI, which is based on sort of the knowledge that we already have and can codify in a flexible way and can use logic to apply it. So I sometimes get frustrated when I find a sort of automatic reaction towards learning something from data when we already know it in the first place.
Yes, absolutely right. And those of us who have been consultants for a while, and you can tell visually that I've been one for a while, know that consultancy is a wave-riding industry. And so there is an element of wave there. And I do look at some of the valuations. I think last time I looked at OpenAI, it was worth 137 billion. And I just could not understand that number. I'm not saying it's wrong. It just looks like a bubble. But this is, without any doubt, Gen AI is going to be hugely significant. And there's vast amounts of effort going in by the big strategy houses and the big four consultancies and the IT industry consultancies like Accenture and IBM.
So, as I interrupt you, please ask our AI agent what it thinks.
Nestor, what are the top 3 AI tools or AI methods that will change how consultancy is delivered? Could you keep your answer brief, please? Thank you.
Absolutely. First, generative AI tools like ChatGPT can automate report writing, brainstorming, and even strategy simulations, freeing consultants to focus on high-level problem solving. Second, predictive analytics platforms use machine learning to analyze trends and forecast outcomes, helping clients make data-driven decisions faster. Third, process automation tools powered by AI streamline repetitive tasks like data gathering or compliance checks, significantly improving efficiency and client value delivery.
Okay, well, thank you. I had to ask her to be brief because earlier when Adrian and I were working with her, she was going on as consultants do.
That was good. Thank you.
Are we connecting with Richard as well?
Richard's unwell. He said he won't be able to join us. Thank you. Not even online, unfortunately. But I don't know if we have another question we're going to move on to. But does anyone wish to contribute at this stage in the in-person audience? Yeah, please.
I've got a question for Nestor. I have a question for Nestor. Can Nestor distinguish an English client?
Nestor distinguished English clients.
Can it distinguish an English client? If I'm going to hire Nestor to give me some advice, can she tell that I'm English, not American? I don't want to be spoken to by an American voice.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you have to forgive me because it is a piece of my R&D. So as well as being an independent consultant, I'm also an independent researcher doing postdoctoral work. And so the American voice I could change.
Well, that's not quite the point, though, is it? Because if you're supplying advice to an American client, they might want to hear an American accent. So the question is, can it distinguish? If you ask it something, like just did, can it tell if you're speaking with an English accent, a French accent, a US accent, whatever accent? In English. And therefore, does it have empathy?
Oh, I see. I see. I think the answer is no. It's that it will be on my to-do list. But we could give it a try, couldn't we? We could ask it. Nestor, we have some connection difficulties.
Are you connecting the Wi-Fi?
Nestor, one of our audience wants to know if you can distinguish the nationality of people from their voices. What nationality do you think I am?
That's a fascinating question. While AI can analyze accents or linguistic patterns to infer nationality, it's not always accurate and can lead to stereotypes. As for you, I'd rather not guess. It's more meaningful to understand your background through conversation. Tell me, where are you from?
It's called a leading question.
It's clever, though, isn't she?
Consultant.
Hey, Nestor, I'm English and I'm from London. Nestor, I'm English and I'm from London. This is me. It's not Nestor. This is me.
Sorry, I'm having issues right now. I do not understand what you said.
Nestor, I'm English and I'm from London.
Lovely to meet you. London's such a vibrant hub for consultancy. Perfect for staying at the forefront of industries. Do you find the city influences your approach to consultancy?
He's going to date you.
Thanks, Nestor. We need to get on now. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, everyone, including Nestor there. So our next question, again with up to 3 suggestions, please. What are the top differentiators of how consultants deliver AI projects today? And as a sort of prompt, we're thinking about things like customer segment, delivery, communication style, technology, etc. Yep.
So I've got 3. So the first one is the understanding of the new AI strengths and weaknesses versus existing tools. So not automatically moving straight towards this Gen AI unless it's the right tool for the job, but don't forget the existing tools. Secondly, an awareness of the downside of these tools. We hear all the upside, but I think there's issues obviously about accuracy. There's issues of systems hallucinating, but they were, as it were, just make things up. Which I think in effect they're doing all the time. It's just mostly they're making up things that are or seem to be useful. And of course, issues of liability, that if you have the AI representing you, what it says on your behalf, you will be held to. So I think a Canadian airline discovered a little while ago. So that's the second one. And then thirdly is all about Nadia Street, but holistic view, looking at the benefit of what you're seeking to achieve, not seeking simply to put technology as benefit-led consultancy where you're using AI rather than technology-led consultancy where you're simply trying to put AI in because we're going to have some AI.
So from my side, I think, again, from a strategic perspective and implementation, so first of all, an industry side. So you have to understand the vision of the company first. What is their strategy? What is their vision? How does the AI implementation is going to be affecting and helping them to achieve their vision? So that's the first thing you need to understand. The second thing related to technology, and again, with the companies, you need to understand the level of technology maturity that they have. So, for example, some companies, for example, the startups, the AI and the data management, the data lakes, for example, is part of their DNAs, whereas for more established companies, and I'm sure you have some of these cases where they have a lot of legacy systems. So how do you do that transition? Because you will have a transformation to do, and what are the processes that that needs to be changing? So that's another aspect that you need to take into account. With AI is based a lot on data. So I mentioned earlier on about your data strategy. What is the maturity of your data strategy, but as well, what is the frequency of your data? Because we rely a lot on data, and however, in certain fields you would not get enough data for training, for example, your algorithm. So you need to really understand that and make sure that you have the right quality and the right population of the data. And the fourth one, I would say, is we have so many initiatives within AI, but one of the challenges that you have in use cases is the scalability. And then how do you make that to bigger and actually reliable as well for companies and to move on? So there's a lot of investment being done. That is true. But then when you discuss with individual, the scalability is a big problem. So I think if you want to go through that route of AI strategy, you need to take all of these elements. It's not only the algorithm, the AI is not only about the tools, it's the whole ecosystem of your company that needs to be looked at as well.
Adrian, forgive me. I was distracted when you asked the question. What was the question again?
It was the one about the
differentiators.
differentiators.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Sorry, Adrian. Yeah. So from my observation, I think this is a really important area for us as consultants, to get our heads around, and because it does look to me like one of the key differentiators in this space for consultancies is going to be size. The big consultancies are just, they have become very big managing change and transformation, and this is completely in their backyard. I think KPMG, I saw a number, we've been estimating additional revenues from AI transformation at something like 20 billion over the next few years. And so they are able to differentiate because they are big and they are wealthy and they are moving early. And so I think for the structure of the industry, I think those who aren't big need to be looking to that, because they are so big that they will influence the industry. And the kinds of things that that give them a natural edge are things like their industry knowledge. So it does seem that those companies, there's some research out from IBM that's very recent, which I recommend to you. Go on the web, you'll find it. And what they were finding was that the buyers of consultancy in the big global corporations are saying that they want to buy AI consultancy, AI transformation consultancy. They're likely to buy in large amounts and quite quickly. And they want to buy it from organizations that understand the industry, that they can trust them, because the AI trust issue is really important for them. And most organizations are in some sort of regulated environment, if they're of any size. And they want a long-term relationship. So those are the kinds of things which play naturally, I would suggest, into the big AI, the big management consultancies that are already in the IT management space, and the IT industry consultancies like IBM and Accenture, who are also in that space.
Thank you. And before we ask Nestor, I don't have any additional differentiators to add, so thank you for your contributions there. But if I could just pick up on a couple of points there. You mentioned the risk aspects there associated with trust, yeah, and that sort of ties in with what Andrew was saying about maybe putting too much trust sometimes in the AI. You could sort of argue that obviously the AI will become more reliable and that the hallucinations you referred to will become more scarce. But in a way, that raises the risk because you're likely to put even more trust into the AI. So that's always going to be a difficult one. In terms of the risk profile, it becomes less likely that the AI will lead you astray, but the stakes become higher.
They do indeed.
So should we ask
on this round? We don't have to.
No,
It won't be himself.
if you remember to just ask her to be brief again, that was really helpful.
Nestor, can you briefly advise us on what are the top market differentiators between the consultancies that are delivering AI consulting services?
The top market differentiators for consultancies delivering AI services are: 1, domain expertise. Firms with a deep understanding of specific industries can tailor AI solutions that address unique challenges, adding immediate value. 2, integration of advanced tools. Leading consultancies stand out by utilizing cutting-edge AI platforms, from predictive analytics to generative AI, seamlessly integrating these tools into client ecosystems. 3, focus on ethics and trust. Successful firms emphasize ethical AI practices, ensuring solutions are fair, transparent, and aligned with regulatory frameworks, which builds trust with clients and stakeholders. These elements set apart firms that provide transformative, sustainable AI-driven strategies.
Okay, I think Andrew has a corollary question for me.
Yeah. Could you ask Nestor a question for me, which is along the lines of, should we trust an AI such as yourself?
Isn't that a bit rude?
Well, yes.
He does have feelings, you know.
Do you mean that if we can trust them as much as I will trust myself? Or
Nestor, could you advise the audience about how much clients can trust AI to deliver consultancy work for them?
Sorry, I'm having issues right now.
I think that's an answer. Maybe we can come back to that because I think that will always be the kind of summary point, really, is can we trust you?
Sorry,
do you want to try again? Or?
Yeah,
okay.
We'll try again because I muffed my words and she doesn't like that. Nestor, can we trust an AI like you? I'm sorry about this. This is user error. Nestor, can we trust an AI like you?
The question of trust in AI like me is both technical and ethical. AI is designed to assist, inform, and support, but trust depends on how it's used and its transparency. 1, transparency. I aim to be clear about my limitations. My knowledge base is up to date as of late 2023, and I rely on your inputs to guide discussions. 2, ethics and bias. My responses are shaped by the data I was trained on, so while I strive for objectivity, biases may exist in my programming or training material. 3, human oversight. Trust grows when AI works in tandem with human expertise. My role is to support decision-making, not replace human judgment. In consulting, AI enhances efficiency, but needs rigorous validation and ethical consideration to ensure trustworthiness. What do you think?
It was a good answer.
AI. Nestor, thank you.
Polite.
You're very welcome. If you have questions or need insights, feel free to ask anytime.
She wasn't insulted. I thought she might be.
So we've discussed in that last point was about sort of differentiators and differentiators in terms of consultants delivering AI projects. Any comments from the room? And we'll also check online as well. We'll have an open discussion as well later in the session. Anything coming through online, Antonio, that we need to be aware of?
No, there is just a couple of comments saying that the actor sounds like a very typical consultant.
Thank you.
Okay, well, let's move on to our next question. We're sticking with this idea of up to 3, and we're looking now at opportunities and threats. Let's start with the positive, the opportunities. What are up to 3 opportunities to watch out for? Andrew.
Okay, thank you. So I don't know if everyone spotted, but 10 years ago, hardly anyone was in AI. Nowadays, you can hardly walk down the street without tripping over AI experts. I always wonder where they come from. So the first opportunity is consulting of AI in business and helping people actually use it. But the real opportunity, I think, is having that deep understanding and not just that passing acquaintance of AI. I feel that very few people actually really understand the nature of AI. It's mostly thought of as just being kind of clever programming, isn't it? Whereas in fact, AI has got some fairly different characteristics. It can be non-deterministic. It can learn, so it can change its view. You can't just say, did it give me the same answer as I asked last time? Like it would get with a database retrieval system. So I think of that deep understanding that's needed by consultants.
So that's an opportunity to offer
the opportunity to offer that, exactly right.
So I will, for one opportunity, definitely to look at, we're definitely in a world where data is not going to reduce, it's going to increase. So we need tools to help us to manage that and to extract what we call the wisdom out of the data. And I think AI is definitely the right route to help us to do that. And then obviously, once you use that, you need to make sure, as I mentioned before, ensuring to know how your data is and how you manage it, and obviously finding the right solution. So I do see that AI can really help us as a society. And not only that, looking really in depth and analyzing, as we've seen a lot of, especially in the medical fields, where AI is actually analyzing a lot of the data and being able to do some diagnosis and helping the medical body, and even helping in the research, which all of the Nobel Prizes recently were helped with AI algorithm. So for society, I think there's a lot of opportunity. Aside of that, when we get to the threats, there's elements that we need to take into account as well. So I do see quite a lot of opportunities, but we need to be wary on how we're using it. Yeah.
Thank you. Alan?
I think the biggest opportunity that I see is coming from the prediction by governments and research organizations and big consultancies that something like 40% of knowledge work is going to be automated using AI of its various types, including generative AI. And that is a staggering number. That would, if it comes about, and I'm personally convinced it will, then that would put the scale of industrial and societal reconstruction and transformation at the same kind of level as we experienced from steam or from the invention of the plow, or those kinds of things. It's going to be quite huge. And in that change, in that transformation, it is essentially not just about technology. It's more about, or certainly as much about, changing people and organizations, the way we work, our relationship to clients and so on. And that hybrid of technology and organizational change and development, which we've seen in other transformational waves like e-business or indeed ERP, which is when I came into the IT industry, is going to be a feature of what goes on. So this is not, for consultants, this is not just an opportunity for those who've got a PhD in AI from Portsmouth under Adrian. It's actually a huge opportunity for all of us to get involved in that transformation to the level of technological involvement that we want, because I think there's room in this huge transformation for those who really just want to work with the technology but don't need to understand it, right down to those who are research scientists who will be building better versions of Nestor. And in that is most analysts are predicting significant growth for the consultancy industry, and through that considerable opportunities for consultants. And the other area that I would say is that there's a lot of training going on now in the big consultancies, and consultants themselves are getting onto training in AI. There's an awful lot of training out there. And so I think there's a great opportunity to build some really good skills, which both allow us as consultants to get into this global transformation, this historic transformation, I would suggest. But also, if I'm really selfish, for us to get rid of some of the work that we do, which we don't want to do. If I don't have to do the grunt consultancy data analytics stuff, plowing through spreadsheet analyses again, and I can hand it largely over to a supervised AI, it gets my vote. So I think there's an opportunity there for us to, as consultants, to up our game, to move our contribution, working with multiple AI agents, move our game up into the strategy area, the insight area, the oversight, the difficult persuasion of people and organizations to change. And I think, for me anyway, that is good news. And I'm absolutely sure that it's coming. The downside is, of course, with opportunities comes threats.
I'll ask about those in a minute.
If you don't want to be involved in this historic transformation, then there'll be tons of consultancy to do, which will still need to be done. But if you want to be involved with it and you don't get the training done, don't get involved, then I think the train is leaving the station.
Well, thank you. I absolutely agree. And if you want a kind of tangible example of how AI can do the mundane and leave the consultants to do the really interesting work, you see that in the medical domain, where there's been great strides in automated diagnosis of conditions by analysing medical images. And what that means is that a percentage, I couldn't give you an exact figure, but a large percentage of those interpretations of X-rays or MRI scans can be either now or will soon be automated. And that leaves the consultants, the medical consultants, liberates them to actually focus on the interesting and challenging cases.
Good example.
Shall we see what Nestor has to say?
If the human in the loop can use the interface properly, yes. Nestor, what are the top 3 opportunities from AI for consultants that we all need to be aware of?
Yes, I'm here. How can I assist you?
Nestor, what are the top 3 opportunities from AI for consultants that they should be aware of? And could you answer briefly, please? Thank you.
Certainly. 1, efficiency gains. Automating repetitive tasks like data analysis, reporting, and process mapping, allowing consultants to focus on strategic thinking. 2, enhanced insights. Leveraging AI-driven analytics for predictive modeling, scenario planning, and tailored client solutions. 3, scalability. Using AI tools like chatbots or virtual assistants to extend client support and deliver consistent, scalable services across global markets. These opportunities enhance value while redefining the consulting role.
Yeah, a little bit bland, but please.
Could I ask you to ask your friend
My colleague.
what they mean, your colleague, what they mean about redefining the consultancy role? Please.
Nestor, when you say that AI will redefine the consultancy role, could you give us some more insights into that, please?
Absolutely. AI is reshaping the consultancy role by transforming both the how and what of consulting. One, shift from problem identification to solution design. AI tools can rapidly analyze data and identify problems, allowing consultants to focus more on designing and implementing creative, value-driven solutions rather than spending time on diagnosis. Two, advisors become orchestrators. Consultants will increasingly act as orchestrators of AI systems, integrating advanced tools into client operations while guiding ethical and strategic deployment. Three, increased emphasis on human skills. As AI handles technical and repetitive tasks, consultants will need to emphasize soft skills like empathy, relationship building, and change management to help clients navigate organizational and cultural shifts. Four, new service models. AI enables scalable subscription-based consulting services, such as real-time analytics dashboards or ongoing AI model monitoring, which will diversify traditional project-based consulting. Ultimately, consultants will evolve from experts delivering solutions to trusted partners enabling AI-driven transformation. What's your take on these changes?
Thank you, Nestor. Excellent.
Keep it sweet.
Can I ask, when you replied there and said it was excellent, you're not doing any training. You're not actually reinforcing that the answer that you were given.
No.
No. So it just, you could have said, you know, the sky's blue tonight or whatever. That it has no meaning. It's your need as a human being to respond to what sounds like a human being.
Yes, that's interesting, isn't it? And I do notice that I do feel a need to be polite to my colleagues, whether they are human or AI. And I do say please and thank you. I don't need to say please and thank you.
Do you mind?
I'm not unusual in that.
Do you mind a follow-up to that?
Go ahead.
So one of the challenges here, I think, is that if you were annoyed with what the consultant was telling you because you were not getting any, were not perceiving that any value was coming to you, you might over an extended conversation become a bit angry with it. And would you expect that anger then to the interlocutor, the AI, to respond in a particular way and to try and focus on what you needed?
Well, my observation is that Nestor and Nestor is a year old now. The agentic tools that I'm working on are much newer. My observation is that it is always polite. It's actually, maybe I'm kind of over anthropomorphizing this, but I actually quite like working with Nestor because when I run consultancy practices, what usually seems to come to pass is this pattern where I'm doing a huge amount of the work, earning huge amounts of the practices revenues, and I get nothing but criticism and critique and smart comments from my fresh MBA colleagues. So, but I don't get that with Nestor. She's she or he, because it's not really it doesn't really have a gender, is always polite with me and always positive. I like that. I need that. Keep me going. Because the clients, the clients are challenging enough. I don't really need it from my consultants. I'm sorry. I'm kind of exaggerating a little bit for effect, but I think you raised some really interesting points.
And it is a good point that actually, if you said that's not what I'm looking for. I mean, Nestor would come back with a sort of revised answer.
She would.
Yeah.
Yes, she would. And she'll apologise as well, even if it's me that's muffles the had a very weak question.
I would say that in most of these models, they have been trained to reply in that manner. Yes. So even you ask in a bad way, they reformat the question to process in a better way, and the answer are always trying to give you in a good, well, empathic way.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. The early generative AIs were generative. You gave them a prompt to start them off, and then they generated stuff. The ones with ChatGPT 4.0 has reasoning within it to some extent. ChatGPT 5, due out in a few months, is allegedly going to be even more capable of reasoning. And they, as part of the training, the really smart research scientists, I'm not really smart research scientists, but the really smart research scientists are doing more than just training it on the corpus of information that it's got. They're also training it behaviorally as well, and also building in guidance as to what they should do. I've built in some guidance into Nestor using prompt engineering, but the stuff which is going on with the OpenAI team and the Google Mind team and so on is mind-blowing for me. I can't intellectually stretch to that, but they are going way beyond simple early generative work.
Thank you. We had a couple of questions and comments. I'll come back to you in a moment if I may. Let's start with the gentleman over there in black.
I'm just going to follow up from the gentleman in front of me. The way in which you're humanizing AI, does it, because you are developing a relationship with it, is that limiting your ability to be objective about it, and therefore be objective about its capabilities, its limitations, and also the information that it's providing to you? I mean, for example, my children will turn around to Siri and say, thank you, but they don't thank the remote control. But it is still just simply a piece of technology. And I think, you know, is this then creating a situation whereby we are almost making it a child? And so therefore our ability to actually turn around and subjectively go, actually, that's wrong, or that's not right, or actually that's not good enough. And, you know, in a business sense, are we setting ourselves up basically, and do we need to look beyond that?
I think that's a fantastic question. And I would see that as a decision for us. It's a decision for us as a profession, how we relate to AI as it's coming through and how we use it. And that's, if you like, in the requirements spec. You know, what do you want your AI to do? I'm probably really weird because I wouldn't mind saying thank you to the remote control, and you can kind of get the feeling I'm quite enthusiastic about this AI stuff. So I am not typical. I probably wouldn't be doing this work if I was typical. But for the profession as a whole, we've really got to think these kinds of things, these and many other things through quite deeply and quite quickly. You know, how do we want it? These AIs to behave? How do we want to work with them, and how will we deal? We don't know if what Nestor is telling us is accurate or not. We could have asked it to give us references. It would have been really tedious for that, but to also listen to that. But we don't know if he was hallucinating in the answers. They sounded like good answers to me. They sounded like the kinds of answers I'd expect from an analyst in a consultancy where we're in a project room working on client stuff. It sounded like that kind of level of quality, if I'm honest. Not exceptional, not partner level stuff, but entry level stuff. But I think you're right. It's a great question. And there's a whole stack of other ones, which I'm sure you've got them ready to come through. But they are challenges for the profession and for us as professionals to work through.
I have an economic question. I'm picking up on the 40% of knowledge workers' roles disappearing, plus possibly others. That will be a loss to the Treasury of income tax revenue. How do you think the Treasury might make that up? By taxing the employment of AI? the AI, PAYE,
Oh, right. Yes. Well,
because without the tax revenue, the country could be impacted by people not having enough money to purchase the goods and services from the companies that are actually employing the AI. So it becomes a deleterious loop.
Well, you have extrapolated from what Andrew, excuse me, I forgot your name for a minute, from what Alan said, because you talked about the sort of processing decisions. You didn't say that 40% of jobs were going to go to you.
well, there is quite a bit of work out there. You can just Google it from the big strategy houses, from big government, the G20 government departments, that this is going to have quite a significant effect.
There's one Scandinavian bank that's talking about getting rid of 40% of its staff. I think it's Bunk and people like that. They're probably not the only ones, but
yes, and I think your point is a brilliant one, and I don't think it's been adequately dealt with. I think it's an opportunity again for us as consultants to think this one through. But the general view coming out of the think tanks and the strategy houses is that, as with other historical transformations of this type, work will go, some work will go, but a whole stack of new work will come along of higher value add. So in the UK, if I go back through my ancestral chain, then most people in the UK worked in agriculture, about 2%. Plus Jeremy Clarkson working agriculture today. It doesn't mean that we're not working very hard. We're all working harder than we probably than our ancestors probably ever did. But that is a feature of previous industrial revolutions, and the general thinking is that will happen again. And so that is about the kinds of jobs that will come through are obviously the AI industry jobs, but it will also release us to do things which we can't currently do. And I think that's a lot of effort goes into our organizations. If you take the NHS, for example, which I know well, a lot of effort goes into just coordinating healthcare. If we could just get the NHS better coordinated, then we'll be releasing time, and there isn't a shortage of work to do in the NHS at the moment. So I think the general thinking is we're going to lose a lot of work activities, not necessarily jobs, because they may be part of my case, it will be the grunt analytical work, but there's a whole stack of new things coming along which will replace it. So, but that transition is a big challenge, and it'd be very easy for people to fall off, for it to be really disruptive and uncomfortable.
We're becoming a lower skilled society. If you looked at a graph, you'd see the level of skills across the general population is going down. I think, and the society is dividing.
Yeah.
And AI can be used to raise those skill levels through educational AI. So I heard a broadcast by a guy who was aiming to produce small AI units so that each pupil across Africa, which is where he was focusing, would have its own AI teaching it, dedicated to teaching it. And so the solutions could well be in there to raise the skill levels so that people might lose their role, but they won't lose their employment, or they'll gain different employment.
It's a great example, and it speaks to personalised education, doesn't it? We've been all teachers, I'm sure Adrian will echo, I was an academic for a while myself, all want to do, but can't do, but maybe now we can.
Yeah. And you can imagine the growth of sort of leisure activities as well, which also just generates economic...
generates tax.
Yeah. So Andrew wanted to...
Yeah, someone wanted to... This is the fundamental challenge of AI and technology in general, isn't it? I take a slightly more pessimistic view, because we had kind of physical jobs and we have mental jobs. When most of the physical jobs went, everyone shifted over to the mental jobs. When the mental jobs go, in theory, there's no work for people to do. And this is the challenge for society. What do we do When AI does all the thinking, when robots do all the working, what are people for? And it seems to me the roots are that benefit can either be taken with an ever-growing bureaucracy, rearranging regulations, or it can be taken with a few people becoming very, very rich and everyone else becoming sort of Untermensch. And then the final option is that somehow we all share that benefit. How are we going to achieve that as a society? We haven't shown so far any ability in that direction whatsoever, whichever end of the political spectrum you seem to be. We don't get that right as a society. This is
one of the proposals for the future is helicopter money. That's the big idea for the future. So the companies will generate wealth and pay tax, and people might not be employed, but the government will scatter money across society, whether you need it or not. That's called helicopter money, and that will give people a living, to go out and buy the goods and services produced by the AI-driven companies.
So, I mean, it's a classic case of, it all sounds on the face of it like a threat, but it could be an opportunity for a new form of society. Yeah. And I think there's some comments online.
There are a few comments online. I'd like to just comment to the two previous questions. If we have that in the emerging market, in the developing countries, education and skills become so affordable, we may face that actually the challenge is to find job here, because most of the workers are coming from or can do the work from the emerging market at a lower salary, and that's what happened with the of the blue collar workers from the UK to China. And the second one regarding the skills, I wanted to just chime in and mention that we have had labor active work in the past, mental focus activity work now, and I think we have an area which is emerging, which is social, which is either dealing with people, how to work with or getting better with people, and we can see emerging roles that are more focused on that. I have a few questions online. So the first one was from Vanessa Mbeto, and is talent development is a key consideration for organizations. What specific skills do you anticipate will be critical in 2025 within this space? Plus, what new jobs do you see AI introducing? I think we have touched that question, but I don't know if anyone wants to comment.
The new skills, one, we talked about AI as a technology, but then there's the expertise within your field as well. So I think it's very important to not underestimate the skills and the experience, the expertise in specific fields. So we're talking about the medical field, we're talking about the aviation and the artistic side, or even in the financial services. Because when you take an AI, it will, in order that it's efficient, it needs to be trained and it needs to be applied properly for the industry that it is applicable to. So I think that's one element. Definitely critical thinking and skills that you need. Maybe it will be a bit more focused on soft skills. So flexibility, learning, and we focused a lot on the languages. So for example, you have Python, you have R, but now you have Julia, you have low-code. No-code AI, through its history, the languages has evolved, and maybe they are going forward. Maybe you would not need to learn a language with the low-code, no-code, for example. So regarding the jobs, I think they are, we call everything for the moment data science. I know there's discussions happening on different elements on how these jobs needs to be defined. Last but not least, ethical, the ethics, AI in ethics, AI in law. These are the fields where it's going to be developed quite significantly, and how, because you will need to see how ethically your AI are working. I think these are fields that we should not forget. That's the jobs for the futures. And Cambridge is having an MSc in AI in ethics anyway, though they've launched that already, and you see a lot of university launching MSc in AI and in the law as well. Sorry, Adrian, you wanted to add
carry
something?
on. No.
Yeah, so that's some examples of the jobs of the futures.
I was just going to reinforce it by saying, actually, when we sort of focus specifically on consultancy business, one of the real challenges related to skills is to make sure that as consultants we're completely on top of the latest developments when certainly the technology is changing rapidly, but as you say, there's wider societal context and ethical considerations that you also need to be on top of. So it's a difficult time to remain completely expert in this domain. Which
I just wanted to add that also the BCS has an ethics certificate, the AI and ethics.
Yes, that's right, with the City of London. That's right, you're right. Thank you for reminding us that.
And we have a question or comment?
Yeah, hi. So I have a question. So you've talked about AI impacts on jobs and how people may lose their jobs. And you mentioned earlier that it's like the Industrial Revolution, where people were also scared of losing their jobs. But with AI, isn't it different? Because you said we all know that AI is in every domain, like in medicine. So should we be concerned, like should we be scared that AI can replace every job? And so should we not set limits to its progress? Because we keep training AI to make it more performant, but isn't that risky?
That's can I? And then this is a really good question. There's two things here that I would like to cover. The first one is related to AI in the jobs, and I would like to echo a point that you highlighted about the processes. So what AI does is it will simplify quite a lot of the processes. So within a job, it will automate, like RPA has been doing. It will automate quite a lot of your processes, but that gives you room for the jobs to evolve. So is the job disappearing itself? It will evolve, definitely. But for example, you have like the analysis of your, let's take a simple example, analysis of your emails, the minutes of meetings. So if your AI can do that, so you know how much time you're saving. So that time you will focusing on more quality work. Now, the second point regarding the regulation, and that's one point I would like to cover in the threads. Yes, I think it's important to focus on this and not seeing regulation as a blocker for the innovation. It's not. It's and we should not forget AI is here to help us as a society and not to replace us. So we are the key players here to ensure what we want AI to do, and it's not only in technology, it's for every individual. AI belongs to all of us, really.
Can I challenge you on that?
Aha, I knew you were.
Yeah. So I think it's an incredibly good question. I think yes is the answer to the first part of it. I'm not sure about the second. But if you say, okay, let's say all the minute taking and all the rest of it disappears, why doesn't your employer then go, that's great, national insurance is going up, why don't I simply have 20% fewer people if there's 20% less work to be done? Rather than you having more time, why don't I have 20% less of you?
Well, that's the thing is, when you look at automation, right, a simple example, you do your test, you have probably 10 processes within your test, okay? But there's so much more insight that you can have, for example, from your data analytics or looking at more opportunities, for example. But then the time that you're free, you can actually work on that. And that's where you realize, even through the era of the RPA, innovations happened and people have more work because they actually managed to have more opportunities about looking at new. So, I mean, I'm not going to give examples, there's precise examples, but actually they managed to get more time and do more of new tasks that they couldn't do before. Yeah, I think we can take that. I know we can take that out, but I do believe so for the moment you're doing certain tasks, but do you know what other tasks, for example, that you could do and that you're not thinking about it right now? So the job will evolve.
It does relate to the earlier point about maybe you're right that some an organisation will shrink for the very reasons that you described, but that doesn't mean others will not be growing to sort of absorb that sort of slack of time available for humans to be educated or to be entertained. Or
that would be good.
Here we're looking at operating model of departments really. So after is how you want that department to evolve. So that's the strategy question.
Okay.
Yes.
Kind of connected to this conversation. Like I work in the content space, you know, content design, content strategy, work with content creators, and there's been a ton of mass layoffs, you know, by tech organizations. So when you say there's more work to do, tell that to the C-suite because they don't see it that way. I think it seems that they're thinking, great, let's make a fast buck, let's get AI to do the job for us. I mean, I was on a call a couple of days ago getting a demo of this fantastic tool, can't remember the name of it now, that, you know, would be doing the job of a copywriter or, you know, content creator. So they don't need, and it's on for enterprise level organizations. So you can imagine how many people have lost that role and they're not necessarily being farmed somewhere else. So I think there's both things could be true at the same time. I suppose that's my generic answer, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean. This is why it's very important when you look at AI, it's not only about a tool, it's actually looking at the strategy and the vision of the company. So what is their vision? What are they trying to do? To automate that, are they aiming to open new business strategies and how are they planning to redirect the employees? That's part of the whole company's strategies. So, and in one of the threats, I think, is taking specific tools and just applying it really for short term. But yeah, these are cases. But that's why I always say, think and review the whole ecosystem. That's quite important.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned short term. I think maybe that's part of the issue here is short termism, because the power of AI has certainly come on in leaps and bounds in a very short period of time, and perhaps it will take a while for organisations to respond in a more measured way that properly reflects the opportunities and the threats. Look, I've got my eye on the time. We need to finish certainly within 15 minutes. We've discussed actually the threats quite a bit. So were there any other points you wanted to make about the threats in general or specifically for consulting?
Please go ahead.
I would say those are fantastic observations, and you're right. There's been the layoffs have already started in content creation, and it's unstoppable because bad quality content is very easily generated using an AI. I think brilliant content is out of reach for an AI at the moment, and maybe it'll always be out of reach. But certainly that is a great example of exactly what you said, where AI can take some jobs and they will no longer exist, and the organizations will take that to their bottom line, take those labor costs to the bottom line. But I think where this is going, and you know I'm a technological optimist, even a technological utopian. but Adrian gave the example from the health service of AI looking at images. When AI looks at images, it spots things that the humans don't see. When the humans look at it, they sometimes spot things that the AI doesn't see. The optimal sweet point is actually for them to look at it together, and then the percentage improvements are only slight over. So typically the human is sort of 95% accurate in these kinds of things. The AI is a little bit more accurate, but not much more, and you can get up to sort of 98% accuracy. But those, if you're in those 2 or 3% and you were misdiagnosed or would be more likely be diagnosed later, that is really quite important. And I think that's a metaphor for where we're going. That it's humans. I think the expression is, which I hate, is humans in the loop. It's humans and AI working together in a way that this panel has worked, and is where we're going to go. And I'm relatively optimistic that whilst some jobs are going to go, and that will transfer to the bottom line and eventually pass through to prices through competition. This is economics 101. Whilst that will happen for some of them, there will be new jobs within existing organizations, and indeed possibly even new industries that we can start to go to, of which we had a great example around personalized education, which I was regarded as a pretty good lecturer because I could stand in front of 200 students for an hour and not have many of them fall asleep. You know, it was far from, our education system is far from personalized. But as you quite rightly pointed out, there are people working on using AI to personalize it down to the individual students with all of their individual characteristics. And so I'm optimistic. I think there are reasons to be concerned. I think somebody once said, I can't remember because I'm under a bit of pressure here. I can't quite remember who it was, but somebody said the best way to predict the future is to create it. And I think it's down to us as consultants very much. There's some great work being done by AI researchers and AI engineers, but I think the consultancy industry is right up there as being one of the key components, and consultancy type industries like change management and internal consultancy are right up there as being central to whether we get this right, and it's a great boon for us, or whether we get it wrong, and it becomes a bit of a dystopian experience for us all. But it's coming quickly.
We've discussed opportunities and threats in a very broad sense here. If we sort of narrow it down to the business of a consultant, is there a sort of more immediate question that there will no longer be the business for them because the client will think, well, I can just get the answer through my AI? Is that a real threat?
Yes, absolutely it is. And the obvious one to me is lawyers, who after all are a sort of consultant in the law, aren't they? That's what they are. I think people are going to want to use AI lawyers because their accuracy may be no better or no worse, but their price will be an awful lot less.
There was 3 points that I would say it's important to take into account. So first of all, in consultancy, it's managing the expectation, what AI can and can't do. Because in the history of AI, as you mentioned, AI has been around for a very long time. There are a couple of episodes called The Winters of AI, where people assumed so much. There was a bubble around AI, and basically after there was a loss of trust. And at that time, AI wasn't as used as we have it now. So if we have another winter, I think that will be very scary because AI is everywhere. So I think all of us, if we want to use AI, we have to be realistic and transparent on what an artificial intelligence can and can't do. So first of all is just transparency. The second is always take into account the regulation and the changes of regulation, not only the AI regulations such as the EU AI Act, the AI Act here in the US, but as well the data regulation as well, and to make sure that it's implemented. Third one, which we talked about, the opportunities and the development of AI, but all of that needs energy, and it's the sustainability. There is not enough energy in our world to be able to support all of these visions of AI. So there are discussion and works being done for the moment to see how are we going to power all of these artificial intelligence if we go full in all of these artificial intelligence algorithm implementation. So sustainability is the third point but people are already working on that, but to take into account.
Okay, thank you. Any more points on the threats side?
Well, there's some research just out from Oxford on on the impact of AI on the consulting industry, and it's showing that consulting buyers are expecting AI to reduce the cost and price of consulting services. They are baking it into their medium and long-term expectations from the industry. It also shows that the buyers of consultancy are expecting consultancies to use and exploit AI fully, but I also expected them to take accountability for its accountability, take accountability for being able to demonstrate that it's working well, and how it works and how it arrives at its answers, which I think is in many ways is a bigger challenge. So there is that is definitely going to happen, and Richard is right. But, and this is the technological utopian coming back. I've always held the view that consultancy is used by far too few people. You know, I've in my consulting career, which spans 4 decades, I've been mainly working for the C-suite. Yeah, but the middle of the organisation needed consultants like me. The lower parts of the organisation needed consultants like me. SMEs need consultants. The voluntary sector needs consultants. So I think that if we can get the price point down, the difficulty is if you are in any of those sectors, and I come along with a £1,200 a day price tag as a journeyman consultant, you don't have budget for it and you can't afford it. But imagine if we could get consultancy done at a much smaller day rate than we currently have, and are able to release the great things that I believe consultants do. I know this is controversial. I know lots of people think consultants are not great, but I happen to not share that view. I think we do fantastic work. But if we can get the price down, and then there are untapped areas, and they're not. I wouldn't call them untapped market. I say there's untapped need out there where we can make an even bigger difference by getting further and deeper into organisations and supporting people who, to date, just can't access tier 1 or tier 2 consultancy at the day rates that we've had to operate at. And we operate at those day rates because it costs that much. It's not that we choose those day rates arbitrarily and get them as high as we can. It just does cost that much to run a big consultancy. And so I'm really optimistic that we are not where it doesn't have to be painful for us. I think it can be an opportunity for us.
Well, in fact, we're going to have to wrap it up in a minute. I was going to ask, maybe have a vote as to whether we think the current developments in AI are good news or bad news for the AI. Sorry, for the consulting industry. I think I know which way.
You've got my vote.
But you had a comment.
I was just possibly it's going to be bad news for you.
Yes.
When you were practicing setting up tonight, OpenAI were running the first of their 12 days of Christmas announcements.
Oh,
right. And so they announced at 6 o'clock this evening, or 6 to 6:15 our time, that ChatGPT Pro will be being made available with a lot more grant at $200 a month.
$100 a month.
And then they went on to demonstrate that I think what you called GPT-5 or 1 it's gone out of preview into release, and they demonstrated with like a sketch the kind of things a consultant would do, and they showed the sketch to it, and it produced a whole set of formula and thermodynamics. It's going to be worth watching on YouTube if it's on there later on. But there are 11 more of these coming. However, I don't want to be a bit weird here, but there's just been news announcement. There's been a Richter scale 7 earthquake in Northern California, and there's a tsunami warning out. So that might affect things. Who knows? But quite seriously, going back to those points you just made about it's being baked in, and reflecting what was said earlier about content. 3 weeks ago, there was an excellent presentation in this very room by the L&D specialist group, where a professional in video production showed some of the latest tools out there, and they were astonishingly good, and they're just going to get better. We're just at the foothills of this. So I think, you know, the concerns about jobs and how roles will change and expectations will change. It's just going to get faster.
Yes.
Thank you. Right, we've got to.
I will look out.
We do need to finish. So in order to wrap it wrap it up, maybe we could have a show of hands, and not about the whether we're optimistic about AI for society as a whole, but do we think it's good news? The current developments in AI are good news for the consulting industry. If you agree that it is good news for the consulting industry, could you raise your hand? It's not exactly unanimous. And those who think it's not such good news. And a smaller number, but a significant number too. So it's obviously an area that's ripe for debate. Yeah. And so I'd like to thank our panelists this evening for the contributions we've had online, and for Antonio for managing those, and for great interaction with the audience this evening. The audience this evening are going to have some refreshments next door. The audience online are welcome to their own refreshments. Is there a final comment there before you?
Can I just say I found the whole evening very exciting, and entertaining and informative as well, and not in a gimmicky sense. I mean, the use of this contraption on the chair, this will go down in BCS history as a first, and maybe not so long in the future we'll see 4 of those on the comfortable and a human on the, doing something, helping along a bit.
That's the equivalent of what the gentleman over there said about the cinema industry and automation of film production, which will be great for live theatre.
Okay.
Thank you. I
that last night.
At one point, there's both Andrew and Nadia talked about data quality, and that is so important. I think that underlies it all, doesn't it?
Yes, thank you. Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone. Those in the room, the refreshments next door. For those online, thanks very much. And
thank you.